Hello, National Parents Union. Happy Tuesday evening. Today is Tuesday, April 7th. I am Marisol Quevedo from San Diego, California. I am the daughter of Irma Castro and Alan George Quevedo. I am the sister of Aran Alejandro Quevedo and Karen Quevedo. I am the niece of Yolanda Lisa Castro, who watches the show every single night and has become the #1 fan of National Parents Union. Hi, Mayoli, I love you. I am the granddaughter of immigrants from Mexico, Camerina, Alexander, Carmen, and Francisco. And I am a very proud mother of Camerina, Emilia, and Sofia. I'm also the grandmother of Luna and baby Sol. Her name is Cynthia Eliana, but I call her baby Sol. I am here with you. It's an honor to be talking to you, but also to be talking to you representing my family and all of the people who have poured into me. Right before we got on, my sister Atia called me on FaceTime, and I got to see her and her husband are in the process of fostering to adopt, and I got to see my nephew show me some dance moves. So it was the best way to get started and prepped to join you today. So we're going to start with our breathing activity. So remember, we're doing 4, 7, 8. So we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. We're going to hold for 7, and then we're going to release for 8. So I'm going to keep count on my phone. Hopefully all goes well. And if I mess up the count, you're going to forgive me because I'm a human being, and I'll try to recover. Okay, so let's get ready. One of the things that I think is important for breathing, I always like to have my feet flat on the floor. And I prefer to have my eyes closed, but whoops, since I'm doing the counting, I can't do that. So whatever, just get in a comfortable position and get ready. Ready? And inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this breathing technique can be used at minimum once a day, and it's just to have a really beneficial, a lot of benefits regarding relaxation, regarding the reduction of stress. So please try this technique. And if at minimum, just do it here with me. So today, I left the conversation with Colleen last night. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch last night's conversation, please do it. Colleen Cook was such a gift. She is a gift. But what she shared with us was just so absolutely beautiful. And I wanted to share, so this is from The Awakened Family by Dr. Shefali Sabari. And this is about separating love from fear. And she's talking about this in the context of raising our children. And I also see it as the expectations that we have for our kids, like who we expect them to be, how we want them to be as human beings. And sometimes those expectations come from a place of fear. And then the reactions to that, when they're not meeting expectations, we can become reactionary, we can become harsh, judgmental, and then but all of that is based in love for our kids. But this also, to me, really has to do with just humanity and not just the way that we're raising our children. Like, how do we react when something's coming at us? And are we reacting from a place, and there's this reactionary instinct is coming from fear, and how can we use love to both recognize where it's coming from and then identify, like, what is this about? So separating love from fear. Our relationship with our children is as rooted in fear as it is in love. Perhaps it's because of our open-heartedness towards them that we are more in touch with all that could go wrong with them. Because we care about them so much, we know that our well-being is in many ways tied to theirs. Quite often, fear and love are enmeshed, with one merging into the other, detracting from the purity of both. It would almost be easier if we would simply say, this is fear and this is love. Instead, we are often left with a feeling that looks like this. Because I love my son so much, I help him with his social life and arrange his play dates for him. Or I insist that my daughter do well at school because I love her so much that I want her to succeed. Although from the vantage point of the outsider, I can assure parents that their fears come from their own past conditioning. It certainly doesn't feel this way when you're the parent experiencing this. And then she talked about, let me just give you this quick example. So this mom, Francesca, and her 11-year-old son kept getting into power struggles over the smallest of things. Their latest conflict occurred when Francesca found him on his iPad instead of studying for a test. She lost her temper and grounded him for the weekend. So I just want to stop there. So this expectation, right? And because we love our kids, we want them to do well. And so he wasn't studying for the test. She found him on his phone. He's wasting time, and she got frustrated and she grounded him. So very reactionary. And I'm really connecting with this because my 14-year-old is really struggling. She's struggling with getting, sticking to a schedule, getting her work done, getting motivated to do things. And okay, it says that I sound glitchy. Let me see here. Okay, I'm sorry for stopping us, but I want to make sure that we're doing good. How is that? How's the sound now? Is it still glitchy? Okay. Okay. If it continues, you need to let me know. I might need to switch. Sorry for talking to Sasha, our producer, who was phenomenal. Sasha, I might need to switch to my phone Wi-Fi. So we'll see. Let me know. I'm going to keep an eye on it. So anyway, my reaction to her not getting her work done, I get very firm, I get very harsh. And I realize that I'm reacting because I'm scared that she is going to build an adult self. We talk slow, but when you talk for a while, it starts again. Okay. Okay. Sorry for the interruption, but let me switch something over and hopefully we'll be okay here. Let me see. Let me switch this. Okay. Hopefully that'll be okay. That'll be better. So my case is from love, right? Like I want my kid to be a good human being. I want all my children to be good human beings. I want her to be motivated. I want her to do well in school. She had the dream of one time of going to Yale. And if that's what she wanted, then that's what I want for her. And when she struggles and she's not doing those things that she needs to do to get there, then I get very reactionary. And then I have to think like, no, like this helped me remember like, it's coming from a place of fear. And I think also when things happen like in life that I don't like something, like I have to stop myself and think like, where is this coming from? Are we acting from a place of fear? And when that happens, then how do we switch that? And so then she continues. So what happened in this story, Francesca grounded Nathan. Nathan got upset because he had a party. He wanted to push his mom. So the mom went to Dr. Sabari for therapy, and she had her go through like, okay, what are you scared of? And then what do you love about him? And when she started talking about what she loved about him, like she just, everything switched over, her affect, her being, her heart. And so she said, okay, now go back to that situation. and how you respond. And it was a total different way that the mom responded to her child. And that reminded me of something that I read in Brene Brown's book, Rising Strong. She was asking people, do you believe that everybody is doing the best that they can? And in her research, in Brene Brown's research, she found that some people, that just that question made them pause and think, like, I think that people are doing the best they can. So then the way that they react to them, the way that they respond initially, it's in a softer, more loving way. And there are people who also, her research found that people that said, like, I don't, people are doing the best they can because I'm not doing the best I can. Like it became kind of centered on like a reflection of self. And I thought that was really interesting also. But imagine with our kids, like all of this crisis that is happening in the world, my daughter is doing the best that she can. And so then the conversation, like we need to switch that conversation. I think also about everything that's happening in people's homes. You know, the fear that they have, the love that it's all getting enmeshed. And so I think being able to look at them separately and identify them is something that's really, really important. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm sorry for all of the technological stuff, but we're good to go now. And I have the honor of introducing our guest for tonight. She is a phenomenal woman. So tonight we have Chef Maria Parocano. She's the owner and mommypreneur of Sana Sana Food and Indígena, which is a line of hand-woven rebosos. Maria provides postpartum support as a comadrita doula, and she also offers reboso workshops to be used throughout the life cycle. So she's going to talk, she has to talk to us about this. Sana Sana, her food company is a plant-based movement aimed at healing community from diseases like diabetes and hypertension through food, which she also has to talk to us about. So Maria is a mother, she's a sister, she's an aunt, community organizer, danzante. She's a mujer de ceremonia as part of the Calpuali Nahuacalco and other ceremonial circles that she's been a part of for over 20 years. When you look at her, you're not going to believe it at all because she looks so young. She looks like she could be 20, 21. She is also the co-founder and executive director of the Siwapatli Collective and a board member for the Sagrada Art Gallery in South Phoenix. So please join me in welcoming Maria Parocano, who will be coming on in a minute. And again, she is from Phoenix. Hi, Maria, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am so excited to be talking to you tonight. So the purpose of this Facebook Live is to, just do a check-in, a restorative check-in with each other. And also for me, just being able to provide people with the opportunity and access to hear others talking about their life, about their learnings, about their path, their journey. It's been a really, truly beautiful experience. And I'm just super excited about having you on, and then the things that we're going to share, because I absolutely, so I don't, like, there's some hardcore stuff, like I want you to talk more about Indígena, about the life cycle care, about, I just want to talk to you. But before we do that, is there anything else that you want to add about you, your family, any other introduction that you want to share?
Sure. I am the daughter of Maria Cristina Parra from Texcoco, Mexico, and my father is Jose Arturo Parra from Cuauhtemoc, Chihuahua, and I am first generation in the States, born in Arizona, but I'm also one of 7 children, surviving children of my parents. I am the wife of Brian Cano from El Paso, Texas. And then also I'm a mommy. So I have, my oldest is almost 7. That's Yolewa Luna. I have Kisani Teshkotli, who is 4 years old. We had a son, Ayokoyani, who's in the spirit world. And then we have our last one, who is 2 years old, and that her name is Tonalitzli Mitotiani. So they keep me busy. Along with everything else.
And so this is what is really beautiful. So the National Parents Union, it's a group of people from across the United States who are really fighting for educational rights for their kids. And they are, I mean, like grassroots, which I know you understand, grassroots organizing, coming to the people, like, coming and gathering the people to do this work specifically with Black and Brown communities and kids who have been identified as needing special education. And so, our most vulnerable, disenfranchised, marginalized communities. So I think this is the perfect group to be talking to. And you're such a match because of everything that you do. Like the you talk about, like you're a mother, you're a wife, and you not only do you have the two businesses, but your husband also has businesses.
He does.
I think you help manage.
Yes, we have a metal company, metal fabrication company also. And we actually have 4 special needs. I have 4 special needs nephews, which are on the spectrum for autism spectrum. So it hits everything in our family, really shifted the dynamic of our entire family, all my siblings and my mother, who was their caregiver also at one point. So yeah.
And how old are they now?
My oldest nephew, the very first one, who was diagnosed when he was 3 years old, is now 19. And he's the oldest. The youngest is, I believe, I want to say he's might be in 2nd or 3rd grade.
Okay. So talk to us about your 2 businesses. So Sana Sana and Indígena.
Okay. So Indígena.
So how did just go girl.
So Indígena started after my first daughter was born. My first daughter, Yolewa, I had worked nonprofit and had been doing social services for over 10 years before she was born. I went on maternity leave. And then when I went back to the nonprofit, I was let go and told pretty much that I had the bad timing getting pregnant, were the exact words that were used. So, which was really hurtful at the time because I had dedicated so much to that agency, but then also took it as an opportunity to be home with my baby, So I said, well, I need to do something, right? And having been independent and really driven to, since I was 15, I used to work Parks and Recreation. I had 2 jobs in high school, like always really wanting to move myself ahead, And so at the time, that's really comes from my mom. My mother was like that very same way, self-employed, entrepreneur for all, and maintained the whole family, So she really guides me in that sense to where that's where the motivation came from, And so I was a stay-at-home parent. Not used to being at home, not used to that life, and having knowing that I wanted to be able to provide for myself is when I created Indígena. And at the time, I was sewing myself fabrics that were imported from Guatemala, rebosos that were imported from Mexico, to be able to serve as for baby wearing. So I was making baby carriers, showing people how to use rebosos, and really learning from my experience and being a tia in the sense of in the ceremonial environments and ceremonial communities, we all care for each other's children. So I was baby wearing and carrying children that weren't mine at a very young age, So I learned hands-on how to wrap babies with the rebozo, how to just use it for myself, even as a faja, and self-care. And so so I started doing that and really just trying to bring in some type, not only for myself, but just my mother was a seamstress also. So part of that tied back to the skills my mom showed us growing up.
So a rebozo, for people who do not know, it's a long scarf, I would say,
yes,
right?
A shawl. Yeah.
A shawl.
Yeah.
It's wider. It's much wider than a scarf.
Yes. Wider.
Wider and
Whiter and usually made out of, you could make them, ours are 100% cotton, but you could also have some synthetic materials, whatever's available. A lot of communities just are able to grow the cotton themselves, dye it naturally, and then I'm able to sew using those fabrics and textiles.
And so you said that they're also used for self-care.
Yes.
And then in what I read, you also talk about life cycle.
Yes.
Explain, please.
I will. Okay, so what a lot of the teachings I've had are not only from working with other mamas, little comadres, people in the community, but then also just on myself is just seeing what's worked for me, my body. And so when it comes to self-care, I think of preconception. Even for preconception, now knowing, 7-8 years later, that I should have been preparing my body to conceive. As a danzante, if everybody's familiar with the danza azteca or the Aztec traditional dancing, there's a lot of jumping and movement. And so at the time, I was not aware that we should be wearing fajas or a rebozo, something to help hold our womb in place, because with the movement,
like what's the English word for faja? It's
almost like a belt, like a woven belt, or something to help with womb support. So you're tying it around your waist.
Also, like Spanx are called fajas, right?
Yeah, Spanx are also called.
but it's because of that idea, like the support. So it's support, yes, for your midsection.
Yes, for your womb area. Yes, and so really traditionally it covers the belly button, your ombligo. That is one of your areas of energy. So you're really trying to take care and nurture that as one of your alignments of your body. So there have been many issues when it comes to women's health, for especially danzantes who have not taken those precautions, or any type of dancer really, because of the movement of the body and not securing your ombligo or securing your uterus, your womb in place. So there's also many community activists, social workers who manifest different energies, and it all manifests in your womb as well. That's where you get PCOS, different types of issues when it comes to conception. So the rebozo being as a way to care for yourself, care for other people, care for your children. So starting from preconception to pregnancy, then once there's a belly, there you could use the rebozo in certain ways, tying it specifically with around ligament pain to help lift the womb and lift the belly. Any sciatic pain. I always had issues with my sciatic. And then from birthing is actually using that same rebozo during labor to help open up the uterus, open up the birth canal, help with pain. There's different exercises that can be done for that.
They're used kind of like underneath the body, right? Like to hold up the body, like so you're like kind of over. And
yeah, there's different ways. There's different positions pretty much that you can help depending on the mama, how she feels comfortable. Also, the placement depends, more importantly, on where the placenta is specifically, so that you don't want anything to happen there to harm the mother or baby. And then if anything, it's as a comfort measure to use for the mama. And then postpartum is where you have rebozos being used to traditionally bind the bellies, or for cerradas. Minorities are familiar with using that same rebozo to pretty much closing the body, closing the bones back into position postpartum. And then you're using that same rebozo to carry the little one, to wash dishes, or to go to the outside for a walk, to different things. My husband was also an active baby married papa, so it's also just showing them how to support communal sense, and it's just one. It could be one also that helps all across, all these different factors of life. And then you also have, of course, the nanas that are also seen with carrying a rebozo and being able, yeah. And it's perfect because, you know, I always have one in my vehicle at all times. And, you know, my kids are big, but I would have them get behind me seating when I'm sitting down anywhere and say, mama back, because they feel that connection, you know? And so that's where it's really important, especially for newborns, to be held, to be worn by a mama, by a relative, by a father, you know. That skin to skin is really important, but also just taking that time to enjoy them that size, because it changes so fast.
Mhm. That is
Yes.
so beyond beautiful. And you know, I knew, so like rebosos for me, they're just something that we've always had, right? Something that we've always worn, that we've always, but I didn't know the ceremonial component of them. And then also that idea of like the life cycle of your of having something that's from the baby until could potentially be something that was used in your you know, when you were being conceived and then given birth to, like you giving birth to your kids. it,
Yes.
it's a really beautiful
Yeah.
tradition, a really
Yes.
beautiful.
And you actually had them also from, you know, if people were harvesting produce or items from the field, you also just wrap your items in your rebozo and carry them, you know. So it was very just um, a very important tool, you know, life tool. It could be used for so many different things.
Well, and also
And
like the sun, right? Like when you're like
yes.
very light skin, but like that protection, it could be another layer. So I always have one with me. I usually have them, especially going to meetings. I travel a lot. So the plane, I always have something I can throw, you know, that I can have to take care of my back. And knowing now just those different, I think the cultural components is so beautiful. So beautiful. Now tell us about Sana Sana
So
and how
sana
it came to be
sana. I'm sorry.
and how it came to be, like where the idea of Sana Sana.
Yes. Okay. So Sana Sana, 4 babies later. So this was Sana Sana was born
So
after my
Indigena
last.
was born when you were how old again? Or like
Indigena. Indigena started after after the birth of my I'm
okay.
sorry, my first daughter, who at the time I was 31, I
Okay.
believe, when she was born. And then my mother actually passed away after a year after she was born. And that caused, you know, of course, there's grief, and it was very sudden. She was very young, and we're still healing from that, obviously. But I am after that, I wanted to help commemorate my mother and help, you know, just she showed us. I mean, she, like I mentioned, era sastre. She made trajes de charro, trajes de mariachi. So she made all these beautiful garments for people from Mexico all the way up here to Phoenix. And that's how actually when my family was in Phoenix, because we were sponsored by the mariachis on a visa in the 80s. And I was the first one to be born here once they arrived, but because of their artwork in that way. So we were taught, I mean, we knew how to put plata on a traje, like, which is the metal on the side of the pants or the jackets of a mariachi. We learned how to do that very young. But and just sewing in general. And so when I was making these baby carriers for Indigena, you know, a lot of people were asking for them. I was making even Asian inspired carriers, but with using a rebozo, using Guatemala fabric, things like that. And so it was really just to pay tribute to my mother for having shown me how to sew, you know, because, and we know a lot of people, and you know, Marisol, you know, a lot of people have a hard time even just learning how to do it. And we know it's a process, and it's a beautiful, it's beautiful artwork, you know, and people just don't see it that way. But I mean, we were raised with new dresses all the time because my mom, that's what she did, you know. And so very fortunate. And so Indigena was really to commemorate her, and then also helping my children tie in to, even though my first daughter knew my mother, but my other children didn't have the chance to meet her in this world, you know. So so yeah, so that was, I was mainly doing that and doing trainings on using the rebozo, doing workshops, working on one of the my other comadres, Perla Farias Portugal, who we were both being trained to be baby wearing educators at the time. And so we were just thinking, like, you know, there's different systems set up already to help people at that time. How which is our way, which is our people's way to baby wear, you know. And so that's when we started researching. We got invited to go to Guatemala. We got, you know, different opportunities came up to try to learn from the indigenous peoples, you know, from the continent. So and that's like, you know, continuing learning about our way, because we already knew from just using them, right, and just from taking care of other people's kids, pretty much how to wear them. So fast forward to our last child, Donalitli, who's now 2. So I had, each birth of mine was very traumatic. I ended up having a total of 3 C-sections and 1 vaginal delivery. And so my last birth, I was, and I hope I don't, and this could be triggering, so I wanted to share, but also letting people know, you know, I feel, you know, really respectful to I don't want to, I hope I don't trigger anybody else's memories to their birth story, you know, as well.
Well, and the thing is that the other part about this time is that this is our real time. Like this is, and I think that that's what's been so beautiful about it, is people are authentic. And I also believe, Carmen, like whoever needs to hear this is going to hear it.
Okay.
And if anybody gets triggered, like they can reach out to us.
Yes.
You know, like so I
Yes.
think what's important is us. I don't want you to leave without having said something that from your heart that you want to share.
Okay. No, and I'm just keeping that in mind also. And please, if anybody please call me or contact me, email if you feel, you know, inclined to. But my last birth, I was actually induced with a balloon, to where at one point I hadn't opened up enough, I guess, for them. They just yanked out the balloon, and that was painful. And there was my tissues and everything on it. We could see it. And then you had, then they were trying to keep giving me time to be induced. They kept checking me. It was painful. It turns out my uterus is tilted, which I had told them already because I've tried having vaginal deliveries in the past. Come that evening, the doctor said, give her an epidural so that they could just to check how dilated I was. So I was poked 12 times for an epidural. And so each time 2 different people came in, and then they told me, you know, we can't do this anymore. It's not working. You're gonna have to go get put under. So I still have the scars from the epidural punctures. And then also, so I was put under. The doctor came in the next morning, said, we're going to do this now. So we didn't have time. They had to shift everything, get me to the ER. Put under, and when I was awoken, somebody forgot to order pain meds. So I felt everything. I was cut open and could feel everything. And then at the time, my husband's like, oh, here's the baby. Do you want to hold her? And I was like, I couldn't even see right out of the pain, and I couldn't sit. And I was like, oh, I can't. Where's the pain medication? And the nurse is on the phone. She's like, I should have been here 20 minutes ago, and like all this stuff, right? So it was a very negative experience, to say the least. I stayed in maybe a few more days in the hospital. At the time, my blood pressure was borderline high, so they still released me to come home. But I think my body was just in shock of everything that had happened. And I ended up having postpartum preeclampsia, to where a week later I had to go back to the emergency room because my blood pressure was so high. I was then placed on this medication in the hospital. I had to leave my babies, all of them, overnight, so I could be so I could be in the hospital. And the medication they gave me, I was at risk of a heart attack, seizure, or stroke, and I couldn't walk. So the following 3 weeks, I was bedridden. Once I got home, bedridden, and I'm fortunate to have had the support of my family and the women of the Siwapaki Collective, who were there to support me in taking care of my children, helping my husband out, preparing meals. People would just drop off food all the time, and that was great. And I'm so thankful for them. And at one point, I was just knowing that plant-based was going to help my body the best, because animal proteins cause inflammation in the body. So I knew I had to release and detox off of all of that, including the medication at one point, to help my body heal. And so within those, I went to my follow-up appointment a month later, and they told me I no longer needed the medication for hypertension, for the postpartum preeclampsia. And I was also on medication at the time for diabetes, because I was diagnosed during my very first pregnancy. They told me I was no longer diabetic.
So, and that was only during pregnancy, or you were diabetic from the time that your oldest daughter was born until that point? So this was for children.
Yes, every time I was pregnant.
5 years, right?
Yes. So I would say I was probably on diabetes medication, including metformin and insulin during each pregnancy, for the past 6 years.
Wow.
And, yeah. And so, which I had to advocate for myself and say, you need to test me early because it runs in my family. And so with my very first pregnancy, I gained 30 pounds in the first trimester, which is not normal. Right. And so I knew at that time, like, you need to test me because this is not right. And so that's when I had to fight with them to even get that glucose test for myself. And so after that, it didn't go away. So then they treated me as diabetic. And then every pregnancy, I had to be on insulin, which wasn't fun, especially having my daughter come up. She had a toy, like a Doc McStuffins or something toy, and she came up and she's like, look, like mama, and she's putting it on her stomach, and so I was like, no.
Yeah, I don't want
to. It was heartbreaking. But so when I went to my follow-up appointment, they told me I didn't need the medication. My A1C was like at a 3 or something.
Wow.
I didn't need the hypertension medication, and then at this time I also had stage 4 liver disease, and I had a biopsy done in between the kids and all this stuff. And now they told me, the specialist said, why are you even here? You don't have anything wrong anymore. There's nothing wrong with your liver. And so I was like, what the heck? And so and part of that was, I really attribute the healing powers of my baby, to help my body, but then also the foods. And so a month after that, well, once we went to our appointment, my husband's like, we need to help other people. We need to help people heal their bodies with food. And so within a month, we had a food truck. And we work fast. That's what we do. Within a month, we had our food truck. A few months after that, we had our catering license, and that's how Sana Sana was born. And we actually got our name because we put it out on Facebook to our friends and said, we need to name our food truck, so please help us. And one of our friends said, Colita de Rana. And I was kind of like, Sana Sana. And so it helps in sending the message of healing, right? And sanar, meaning to heal in Spanish. And the saying of, if it doesn't heal today, it'll heal later on, or it'll heal tomorrow, Yeah, so, and we know even within.
So can you,
yeah, and I know.
Can you tell us what the Sana Sana Colita, just can you explain what that is? The Sana Sana Colita.
Yeah, so we heard it, like, if we were to fall when we were little, it's a very, like nanas would say it all the time, grandmothers, to be like, oh, dust yourself off. You get a scratch, you get hurt, it's like a woo woo woo, it's okay. You'll get up, dust yourself off, and keep going, And so in Spanish, the saying is sana sana colita de rana, si no sana hoy, sanará mañana. And so really, sanar or sana is to heal. And so they were just saying, like, oh, okay, heal. All right, it's all good. And then they would send you off,
So, but in a cute way.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And so Sana Sana now is focused on healing our communities, but using plant-based medicine or food as our medicine. And so that's what we've been able to do. And I really just try to educate people on what foods I would have during that time, and then continue educating on the health benefits of nopales or cactus and health benefits of ancestral foods, indigenous foods to this region. And I'm based out of Arizona, but we share similar, the whole Southwest into Mexico shares similar, the continent is similar. So we share the same foods that have spanned, hundreds of years, that have survived, lineages of seeds that have survived throughout colonization and throughout the continent. So using amaranto, using, like I mentioned, nopales, using quinoa, knowing which beans provide the higher level of protein for people. So people always ask, where do you get your protein, being mainly plant-based? And it's like, well, all plants have protein too. It's just knowing which ones contain higher amounts of it. And being indigenous peoples, we also focus on respecting all creatures, but respecting also animals like the buffalo, the deer, the fish, ancestral foods that way. So very minimally do we use those, and only when working with specific communities. Like, say we get a request for somebody for buffalo, then we'll prepare buffalo, so but for the most part, mainly focusing on plant-based diets.
So quick question. Are you, because I know I've asked you this before, but do you have your recipes anywhere, or do you have a book? Do you have I want to start a more plant-based, but healthier eating, right? But I don't know, that's not, I really don't know how to use squash, like aside from, zucchini. So is there a place where we can get the teaching?
Yeah, so I actually have a one of the very first projects I did over a year ago was and this was mainly for my children, but it's a children's coloring and recipe book that is available on my website, sanasanafoods.com. And it just showed, I had a friend of mine illustrate pictures of my daughter, even grinding corn. And this was just using pictures, because my daughter would go with me to present on how to make tortillas and grinding corn and mixing the nixtamal, everything. So, it's also telling the story of how the corn came to the Mexica people, or the people from Mexico. So just a very small aspect of how influential is an ant, an ascot. Just a little ant starts with one grain, but builds so much. So also just showing how in communities, all you need is a little seed, and so much could come out of it, so and then I'm also working on, this week I've been also helping manage the Healthy Roots Cafe in South Phoenix, which is primarily based in Lassen Elementary School, where we have our first plant-based restaurant run by kids. And so I'm able to teach them different aspects of our menu, how to prepare things, how to clean, things like that. And so, but unfortunately, it's currently closed because the schools obviously are closed. But we are still on Saturdays having our mobile pantry out. I converted my food truck to actually just a mobile pantry to have indigenous dry goods. So we have tepary beans, choya buds, mesquite flour, blue corn, ground blue corn, wild rice, different things like that we try to source from the different indigenous nations throughout the continent. And so we're working to slowly include more items, but also just to support families, because right now it's really hard for even most families to get a lot of dry goods right now. And so,
are your items available online? Are your food items? Okay.
Yes, they are on our website as well.
Sanasanafoods.com.
Yes. And so I'm also preparing recipes, because there is a garden there, a community garden. So all produce we use is from the garden. And I'm helping set up recipes with the dry goods, which items are in season, showing people how to use chard and kale, even with different things that a lot of people may not be familiar with, And so I'm developing these recipes along with the dry indigenous items that we have. And those will all be this week on our website. And then I've had so many people ask me for a cookbook, and so that's in the works. So little by little, trying to get recipes together, because we know, I know for me it was really hard because my mom never used recipes, it was just échale esto, échale de otro, so yeah. So it's really trying to even think, like when I learned that recipe, I'm trying to like photographically remember my mom, and each time it's her doing something. So me, it's just documenting everything with that. So it's taking longer because of that, but I'm also trying to include, different variations of recipes, or like using my daughters like working on recipes with me too. So the 7-year-old, or she's going to be 7, my oldest, comes up with her own smoothie recipes with me, so they're food critics, so it has to taste good. So it's kid approved. A lot of our recipes are kid approved. And so and my baby loves eating popped amaranth. So she says that granola, I do a mix of it. I call it our ancient granola, using popped amaranth, popped quinoa, um, sunflower seeds, pepitas, and chia. And I just combine those together, and it's just a version of an alegría, if anybody's familiar with that. An alegría in Mexico is just, alegría means happiness. And so what it was just a sweet given. And so they were called alegrías, but made with popped amaranth. And that even goes back even more to where amaranth being such a strong superfood that our ancestors would nurture and take care of and respected, it was used to form as an offering to Tlaloc, the god of the rain, for the harvest, and used to also maintain the warriors when they would go off to war. And when the first Spanish came onto the continent, it was outlawed, and so people were actually sacrificed and killed if they had amaranth, and so just showing the power of this food. And I also think at one point it could have changed history, right? But just seeing just how the amount of protein it contains in 1 tablespoon being so powerful, and then also adding other ancestral foods like chia, which we know again is high amounts of protein there as well. So just being fueled by my ancestors is what I always say. So everything will be online. I have most of the items online right now, but the cookbook for sure is something that will be added on slowly, and really just putting out. The coloring book is free. You could download that through our digital Dropbox on our online shop, and then other recipes will be added on throughout the week on our blog. And then I did want to share, I received a notification this week that I had applied for a small grant to try to help with the Siwapakli Collective through the 7th Generation Fund to help fund emergency care packs for our community members. So we'll be preparing Indigenous food packs to go out to those in need in the area here in Phoenix. So a lot of work, but we're really trying to not only support Indigenous farmers, producers, manufacturers, ultimately families, in need, but then also those in our community, our elders who may not have the same support system. And so we want to provide those foods for them.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Because not only, then you also went out and did the work to be able to get the funding to help support that and the distribution. So you've done all this work in the last, so your oldest daughter is 7 years old. And in that time, you've had 4 children. Your mother passed away. Your son passed away. And you've started all of these businesses. And we now find, so there's all these beautiful, like these blessings, right? There's loss and there's blessings. And it's so much like the last 7 years, 8 years are like life, right? It's like life in its whole sense of being. How have you managed, and like how have you managed to be the person that you are and continue to grow and evolve into an even more loving, generous, beautiful, innovative soul and spirit? What is it? How have you been able to do that?
For me, I think I'm really thankful for the teachers and the ceremonia, really the ceremonial teachings I've had the past 20 years, from starting at with the danza azteca, the Aztec dancing, to other ceremonies like the sweat lodge and things that I've been able to tie back to my ancestry. But and really it's just my own spirituality, and being able to go back and take that time for myself, whether it's just washing a quick dish or doing something really quick. And in the kitchen, really, I see it as it's all ceremonial, right? You're feeding people, you're nurturing people, you're sustaining them, and you're teaching them, so for me, I was taught really young to have my smoke in my fireplace, so that's what I always have, that in the kitchen with me. And then my daughters now know about that, so for me it's just making those connections back to myself and what spirituality means for me, because it could be different for many
Yeah.
people. What makes sense and what works. Some people meditate, and I have a really hard time with meditating, but I could sing a song, and that's my meditation, so I could show my daughters how to drum. We have a hand drum, we could shake the rattle a little bit, and that helps, refocus us, even with, they're all under 6 years old, 6 and under. So part of that is too, like, okay, let's focus, let's bring it down. If they're running around like crazy, let's sing a song. And they're like, oh, okay, they get all excited and they sit down. Or one of them, mama, can we make tortillas? I was like, okay, let's make tortillas, things like that too, where, now being with my children and my family, it's just finding that balance is hard. But, I have so much support, which is so desperately needed. And the only way I was able to do that was to ask for the help. And we as a community are not used to asking for the help, and so my mom was the first one, like, she would never ask for help, and so now learning is like, no, we need help. We need the support. We need to have each other's backs. And really, when they say it takes a village, it really does take a community as parents, building those relationships with other parents who have similar interests, or maybe somebody could, taking turns cooking even, or I know right now it's a hard time, but I've been sending dry goods out to people that helped me, when I needed help. So it's like, okay, how can I make things how can we support each other as a community? And that's how, for me, it was really just even offering a little prayer, offering a little thought, offering a song, and lighting my smoke, and just, having that own connection spiritually for myself. And not saying I can't be in a building somewhere else or anything like that, but it's like, this moment in time right here, sitting here, how can I be chill? Bringing that, recentering myself, is really important. And my husband and I go back and forth. It's like, no, okay, you go. Do you just need to go drive around the block? Okay, just go. Things like that. So I get it, especially for my sisters. The majority of them were single mothers too, so it's knowing that we need to be able to support, and I guess I didn't have a choice in a sense, because I have so many. I'm one of 6 daughters, so we were all females, like with the exception of the 2 males that survived. And we were just the matriarchs in our family, and so we were able to be there to help support our families that way. But really just taking a minute, taking a breath, taking a second to just gather yourself, I think has worked the best for me.
And how are things going? How are you doing with having to be at home? So I know you're getting out with the pantry, but how are you doing with that? And how are things going, I think, like with your kids and with what's happening with the pandemic?
Yeah. So when all the shifting started here in Phoenix, we were actually, my husband and I were in Mexico. We were in Teotihuacan, so we arrived back.
And we were together.
We were there together.
Yes.
So we were gone for a week, and in that week is when everything shifted, right? And so it was spring break for the children. Come back, my sister, they were with my sister, and so they come back, and my kids all knew what was going on. I didn't have the
That was
chance
the
to
first
talk to
time
them.
you guys had left them, right?
Yes. We
So
had said it was our honeymoon because we never had a honeymoon before. So it was the first time we left them, and we come back and there's a pandemic happening, right? And so we had, we wanted to get back in the States, so we cut our trip short to get back into San Diego, to get into the US. We were, of course, fearing the border would be closed. Um, so we stuck it out there, and at the time, San Diego, we got there and it was a ghost town into the hotels and everything like that. So we were just glad that people were taking care of themselves in that sense. But then it was also eerie for us to see that, right? And so we come back to Phoenix, and um, people are still out. Even right now, it still seems like there's not really concern, but my kids, my oldest child, during the very first week, in the middle of the night, came in and was saying, "Mama, I think Kisani has the virus." And I was like, "What?" And just her anxiety, she has anxiety, so I just have to talk to her a certain way and help her process things. The 6-year-old, and so I tell her, why do you think that? She's like, "She's really hot. You need to come feel her." And so I run to her room, and I'm checking her, and she's like covered with blankets. She has like multiple blankets on her. And so I was like, "No, mommy, it's okay." I told her she's fine. She's just hot and she's sweating, but just to hear her, I heard her fear in her voice about the virus. So everything is like because of the virus, right? And so I've been trying to we weren't able to tell them about it because we weren't here to share that with them, because I would have liked to have communicated a little differently with them, not to shelter them at all, because they're totally aware, but also just to let them know that why we're staying home. And so now I've had those conversations with them. It's like, "Oh, we're gonna stay here. We can't go see your cousins. We can't go." One of them had a meltdown the other night. This 4-year-old, "I want to go to my cousin's house," and she was crying and crying. And I had to just hold her and tell her, "We need to make sure we're okay. We can't go over there. We have to. Do you want them to be sick?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Okay, well, I don't want you to be sick." So it's just communicating with them at that level. I mean, they're little, and so I just have to let them know that, we're staying home. Mama's work is not existent right now because of the food industry, but just going out to the pantry, and I really like, we're taking them with us when we do that. But the good thing is, my husband's there, of course, to help with them, but we're out on the farm. So there's plenty of space for them to run. We're out in the sun. Their interactions are with each other, not with other people. So we really try to even be cautious of that. And we're also have our masks and gloves and everything like that when we meet with people. So taking precautions for sure. But we're hanging in there. Our middle company will also be taking a few weeks breaks here coming up soon. So we're managing like everybody else. We're trying to take things one step at a time, but we're also entrepreneurs. So we don't have other sources of income. So we're trying to balance, see how we could get our family forward, and like everybody else.
thank you so much for coming to talk with me today. And I definitely want to have you come on the Spanish broadcast as well.
Yeah.
So the Spanish, yeah. And I think, the information that you shared, really, really beautiful about rebosos and the, like our traditional ceremonial use for them. And just how beautiful that idea of like life cycle rebosos and the miracle of Sana Sana Foods. So thank you. I know it's sanasanafoods.com for
Yes.
the food coloring book. And then also you're going to have recipes in your blog posted up there, and you have dry goods that people can purchase and you can ship out.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you. We're going to be having you back definitely on that Spanish show. I cannot wait to have you on. Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marisol. And good evening to all the parents out there.
Thank you. Good night. Wow. She is a phenomenal, phenomenal woman. Please, if you get a chance, go to sanasanafoods.com. I'm really excited about those coloring books that are free downloads that you can use with your kids. And then also she's going to have recipes on there. I also really am interested in dry goods because I would love to learn how to do some, like make tortillas or with whatever it is that she has. I think she said she had some blue corn. So I'm very interested in that. Thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the way that you continue to do good in this world and for the love that you carry for yourself and for your children and for your family. I will see you tomorrow night. Thank you. Good night.